We want to try and connect at that level.
So when somebody comes to you, for example, and expresses, something, so our job is to stop and say to ourselves or to them, okay, what need are you expressing, or is it best to just let them express?
Well, the way we try and share learning how to live from this perspective is to start out silently for the most part. Because it's a big shift in energy just to begin to see the world from this perspective. So to try and do that and put it into words makes it very difficult and can oftentimes come across as some type of technique.
Psychotherapy 101.
Yes, yes. Or an attempt to manipulate or, you know. So we urge people to try and work on this from a silent perspective at first until they kind of really gain the perspective. So what Marshall's always said is we always guess at needs. Okay, so if we're guessing to ourselves or guessing to the other person out loud when we get to that point, it is just a guess. We don't ask what the need is. We don't have to have it right. But we do guess. If I were conversing with someone, I would say, so I'm guessing, it sounds like maybe you're feeling irritated and really just need some understanding. Is that correct? So
yeah, it sort of takes down their defenses, right?
I guess it's probably so because, I would put it that way. We tend to get defensive when we believe we're under attack, and so in this sort of thing where we're guessing, it gives them a chance to say yes or no. That's why we don't have to be right.
Yeah.
And it also gives them, there's a subtle message there when we guess that we care enough to even bother to guess. So there's a very subtle message there that I really do want to connect with you. And even though it's not blatant, it is very subtle, but it does have a different effect when you're guessing than if you're asking.
Yeah. I'm curious because I know, because I've done a little bit of this work through other people, and I have a tendency now, like you said, to wait before responding to anybody who's expressing on that level, because it's usually on a heightened level. It's they come in and they've got something they have to say or whatever, and I find that I'm becoming more of an observer, observing people's ways of communicating, and I find that in our society we just basically don't realize that there are some people who are willing to listen. So we start off with this like, well, this sucks, or I don't like this, and I've had such a lousy day, and, blah, 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 blah. And they don't realize that some people are interested in what they're going through in their experience. Yeah. So if everybody had this training, it would help not only the people that are listening, but the people that are expressing.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that come up for me as you're sharing that. One is, over time, since I've been with nonviolent communication, one of the most important needs I've run across, and sometimes I think it's our only need, but is presence. We need just presence, to be heard. Because what happens, the way we communicate in our society, someone says something, we tend to either defend against it, or we'll try to offer a solution, or we'll say, I know exactly what you mean, I experienced the same thing before. We go through different ways of either trying to understand things mentally, trying to solve it, sympathizing. What we offer in nonviolent communication, we call empathy. And for me, empathy and nonviolent communication may be different from empathy is being bantered around the world quite a bit these days. But for us, or at least for me, I'll just speak for myself, empathy is that presence. And particularly in nonviolent communication is that it's that translation of whatever they're saying into what need are they trying to meet. So it's putting our attention there on what the need is.
Mm-hmm.
So we have so many needs. Like I say, I think there's fewer and fewer needs the longer I'm with nonviolent communication, but it's still helpful to look at it, whether it's needs for food and water and shelter, or needs for understanding, to be heard, for love. All these different things are things that we choose strategies to try and meet.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's definitely a big topic here today. I'm so happy you're here. I love this topic because I face these challenges every day, because a lot of the people around me have not had this kind of training. And I mean, I've had the tip of the iceberg. There's so much to learn. So I'm really happy that there's going to be a workshop coming at the center that people can learn more about it. And I'd also like to take this opportunity to remind the listeners that are listening to The Alternatives. You have choices in CIDI 99.1 FM. And we're talking to Norman Passwalk about nonviolent communication. I'm your host, Ilya Kavukis. And something happens, I find, when you give somebody, like you were saying before, presence. It's because a lot of people, we're talking about needs. What is their need they're trying to satisfy right there in the moment? And I find a lot of times, maybe it's a judgment on my part. Like you said, we're guessing, but it's validation. People need to be validated in who they are, in their emotions, in their feelings of what's going on in their life, what they're doing, where they're going in life. And when you're interacting with somebody, I find a lot of people, they just need the validation. And when you give them that, like, thank you, by the way, for doing this for me, or thank you for coming, or and then they're like, oh wow, the gratitude,
Mm-hmm.
that find is a form of validation for certain circumstances. Would you agree? It's
Well, I would put a little bit different twist on it.
mm-hmm.
Because one of the concepts that we work with in nonviolent communication is moving away from concepts of right or wrong, good or bad, reward and punishment.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes depends on the intention, basically, and what's behind the thank you. Because if it's meant as a reward, or to try and, in a sense, have people be happy and continue to do what they're doing, then I wouldn't consider it nonviolent communication. It's a different approach. So with nonviolent communication, we want to really connect with what need they're meeting. And if we're saying thank you, we would do it from a different perspective. We'd want to share what need of ours is met when they do what they're doing, because it gives a lot more information than just a thank you. So if I just say, oh, thank you, Ilya, for inviting me here today,
Mm-hmm.
That's one level. But if I said, Ilya, when you invited me here today, and here we are sitting here, and you're asking me questions, and I'm getting a chance to respond and share my passion about nonviolent communication, I notice I'm feeling very full inside. And there's a sense of peace, and it's really around, it's really helping me connect myself with my own passion. And I'd like to just connect and see how that touches you when I share that, what comes up for you when I share that.
Well, it makes me feel good knowing that when I invited you, that it was the right choice to bring you and have you have an opportunity to share, because that's what I need. My need is to share all these wonderful things with people.